Alright, attempt number 2 at recording this video because for the last 7.5 minutes of rambling, there was no audio on my microphone. And that's not what this video is about. It's not microphone deprivation, it's music deprivation. What do I mean by that? So, I had a different video idea that is not, I'm not going to talk about it in this. Subscribe and stay tuned for that because it's something I'm very excited about. But I thought of as an interesting side project. In preparation for that project, it would be an interesting experiment to try to go as long as I could without music. And parts of this were easy, like I just stopped listening to Spotify, stopped watching music videos, turned the radio off in my van. But other parts of this was not so easy because the radio is going to be on other people's vehicles, and I'm not going to ask them to turn it off for my silly experiment. There's music playing in public places. There's luckily not music playing in the store that I work at, which I kind of like. Other people think it's like too quiet, and they don't like it. I like it. It's very peaceful. But anyways, over the last 6 months, I tried to go without music as much as possible, and honestly, within that time frame, probably the longest I actually made it without any music is maybe a week at a time. Because, like I said, there's music everywhere. Our world is filled with it, and it's wonderful. But also, there were a lot of times where I was like, screw it, I just want music today, and then I would listen to music. But the reason I did this is because with so many things in life, the duality of life, it's important and useful to experience both sides of things. So if you're eating food all the time, you can get kind of clogged up and just feel like, So sometimes it's good to take a break from food, even if it's just like half a day. But of course, on the other side of that, if you never have food, you're going to be hungry all the time. So obviously, you need to have food. And so obviously, the ideal is somewhere in the middle, the balance of the two. There's all kinds of examples like this, like sleep versus being awake. If you're awake all the time, you will very quickly find out sleep is very important. But if you're asleep all the time, you start getting bed sores and you start hurting and you start realizing that being awake is very important. Also because if you spend like the majority of your time sleeping, then you end up not tired enough to go back to sleep the next night, and you end up screwing up your sleep schedule, which I've done many, many times in my life. This also goes for physical activity. If you sit all day, every day, and never do any physical activity, you very quickly, well, actually, a lot of people can endure it for a lot longer than they should, but you will find out in the long run that you need to be physically active because you'll just feel better. Versus the opposite. If you're physically active all the time and you never sit down, sit on the couch, and just relax, you will wear yourself out. In all of these, the ideal is somewhere in the middle. And if you are too far to one side, then it's good to swing too far to the other side and remind yourself of trying to feel out that middle. But with music, that doesn't seem to be the case. At least not in the experiment that I've been doing, or was doing, and I don't think I'm going to continue it. Basically, my thought was, if I deprive myself of music for a while, then maybe I will appreciate it more when I start listening to it again. Maybe I will listen to it differently and perceive it differently. But I just didn't. Like, if you go without food for a long time and then you finally get food, suddenly the tastes are so much more intense. Everything is more vivid and amplified. And so I was thinking maybe that would happen with music. But because I'm still listening to other things, I'm listening to the sound of the birds and the rain and the wind and people talking and blah, blah, blah. Maybe if I went without any sound for a week and then I opened my ears, and maybe everything would be like more vivid, but also probably it would just give me a headache. Because like if you like keep your eyes closed for a couple hours while you're awake and then you open them, actually you don't even have to go a couple hours. You do like 10 minutes, 20, 30 minutes of just being awake with your eyes closed, basically meditating, is the times when I've experienced this. And then you open your eyes, it's like, oh, everything's so bright and vivid and bold, saturated colors. And then you get used to it and you don't notice it anymore. And because technically that's just the way things are all the time, but you just get used to it. But anyways, I didn't experience this at all with music. When I went back to listening to music, it's just music. It's the same songs that I've been listening to for years, some of them my whole life. and they sound the same. I'm not like noticing new details in the music or noticing the tone of the instruments any more than I used to. I don't perceive it any differently. It's very strange that there was no difference. Maybe I just didn't go long enough without music in order to experience that. I don't know. And also, I just kind of did this experiment. I didn't look into it at all. And so very briefly, before recording the first attempt at this video, I did a very brief Google search on music deprivation. And there's nothing. There's a band called Deprivation. There's songs about deprivation, or titled Deprivation, or Depravity, or whatever. But there isn't, like, studies on the psychological effects of music deprivation. There's nothing that I could find in a brief, quick Google search. So I want to know what you think about this. Let me know what you think down below. Subscribe for that future video that I am very, very excited about. That this was just like a silly side experiment in preparation for that. And honestly, kind of just like delaying that, because that big project takes a lot of effort and a lot of time to prepare for and to actually do. And so I was kind of just delaying it by being like, oh, I'll do this experiment first. But I was really surprised that there was like basically no results from this. So yeah, let me know what you think down below. What's the longest you've ever gone without music? Have you ever had an experience where you returned to music and suddenly it was just so much more different or intense, or just a greater appreciation for it, or anything? And thank you so much for watching, and have a harmonious day.